Welcome to The Hop, a marketing podcast with a business edge. I'm your host, Matthew Taylor Farrington, co-founder of Purple Bunny Marketing. Here, we cut through the fluff and bring you real marketing and business insights, covering everything from branding to digital strategy, business automation, IT, cybersecurity, and even some leadership. No fluff, no jargon, just smart insights. So let's hop to it. This week on the latest episode of The Hop, we're going to be talking to one of the team members from Purple Bunny Marketing, Sam. Thanks for coming along.
No worries.
And we're going to talk about business automation and how that can be integrated into your business and not just from a marketing sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So I guess one of the buzzwords that's around is automation and AI that's constant and everyone's talking about it. But for those who haven't dipped their toes, when we say business automation, what do we mean?
Well, a business automation would be anything that uses technology to streamline any kind of task that someone would usually manually perform.
Yes.
So, for example, like a chatbot would be a form of automation. So instead of someone having to manually look at and respond to each message, you can have an automation set up with FAQs to respond to common questions or give people links to click on to direct them to the right place to go before they need to speak to a person, because you might be able to sort their issue out before you get to that point. So it's anything like that that's taken work off your hands and putting it into the hands of technology.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's just those granular little admin-y things that no one really, likes doing, that you can kind of automate and set and forget and hope that, and have it kind of handle those things for you so that you can focus on the bigger things in your business, or have your team focus on things that are more important that make money for the business.
I mean, who wants to sit there and manually email leads all day, right? Like, seriously.
Correct. Yeah, correct. And no one does. No. So, all right. And I guess we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but what are some of the other problems that it can solve day to day?
Well, in a broader sense, yeah. I mean, just anything that takes time out of your hands or menial tasks out of your hands, so it allows you to focus on the bigger projects or more important projects that require more attention, is a big problem solver, I think.
Yeah. I think there's so much in a day-to-day business that if you looked at your processes that we have staff entering data in this system and this system to make it happen. So why can't we just enter it in one and it populates in the others? There's things to emails responses, SMS responses, down to sending payment links to a client, and streamlining the payment process and sending out the different things when an invoice sends. Like, there's just all sorts of things that you can do to automate processes. As an example, we've kind of automated our onboarding process, right? So we fill out an onboarding form with a client fills in their part, and then a series of emails goes out that a staff member normally would have had to send, that sends the relevant email to that client saying, hey, here's how to grant us access to things. Hey, here's how to share information with us. Here's how to share your logos with us, whatever the case may be. We've eliminated that as an admin process from somebody now.
It saves a lot of time, because it used to take us a lot of time. Correct.
And not only that, then there would be the follow-up, whereas the email system knows that person hasn't clicked or opened that email, so it sends the follow-up for us. So instead of someone having to go, oh, wait, did that person reply? No, that didn't. And then send that email. It's just eliminated so much waste in the business, definitely. All right. Can you share some examples of where automation has helped business save time and reduce errors that might not necessarily be marketing related?
Well, one example that comes to the top of my head immediately is we work with a real estate firm, and they have software where they list all their properties. And what we've been able to do is hook our systems into it to automatically create tasks in our task system when a property is listed as either sold or for rent or for sale. Yes. It makes that distinguishment, and it allows us to, get straight onto it without requiring someone to manually, or someone from the real estate company to manually go in and then send us the property, or without one of our team having to manually go into the system and add it into our system manually. So, I mean, that saves a lot of time, and that's been a big time save, because it used to be manual.
Correct. And I guess the other thing is it's more instant. So before, one of the things we found, or the gaps we found, was the admin person on the other end at the agency, they would load the property into the system, and what they were doing was they'd load all 10 properties in, say there was 10 that they had to load up or mark off or update. Then they would send that email. However, when they loaded it, press save, our team was notified immediately. Our team could then jump on that promptly, create the post or the ad, whatever was required to support that listing, and get it out there efficiently and effectively. It's eliminated waste on their end. It's eliminated waste on our time as well, where suddenly we'd get an email and we'd have 10 to do all in one big go. Instead, we're getting them gradually throughout. So what it's done is just improved performance on both sides within the business.
It just saves so much time.
Correct. And then we've automated it back on our end. So once it's completed on our end, they're notified. So they know. Yep. So the whole process has just become automated apart from the physical doing aspect of it.
Yeah.
So,
which is
and hopefully one day we can automate that too.
Wow.
To a degree.
Wow.
To a degree. But yes, that's the goal with it all, is to find those little parts in the business that you can do to streamline. So, all right. What are some quick wins that you've set up for clients automation that have had big impact?
Well, there's one that we just went over has been a good win. Also, automated emails to touch base with clients has been one for me. Having emails go out regularly every fortnight or every month, depending on the client, that sends them a meeting link where they can again automatically book a meeting in a time that works for both of us.
Yes,
has been good and has cut down on time that I would used to have to spend manually emailing people and manually checking who I've emailed, or having a task, to manually go and type something every week.
Or even just messaging backwards and forwards to say, hey, when are you available? No, I'm not available at that time. You are. Yeah. And I think calendar tools, there's Calendly, but there's another one out there in the market that's a little bit cheaper and better for small businesses. I think it's like $35 one off. TidyCal. Yeah. And then, you've also got them built in with bookings, built into Microsoft. Google offers it. There's all sorts of tools you can use to integrate your calendar, and having that simple thing go out to save that time again is just saving so much wasted time communicating backwards and forwards. It's just not necessary.
And it puts the power in the client's hands as well to pick a time that suits them, but you still control your own schedule, right?
Correct.
So they're not going to book on a weekend or anything. It just makes it easier because, like you said, otherwise you're just going back and forth. Does this work for you? Does this work for you?
Yes.
Can you do Tuesday?
Yeah. And I guess one of the things we did as a quick win there would be we implemented that in the gyms, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that they were struggling with was getting leads to come in to the gym, to explore the gym and have a look at it. So we automated, when a lead came in, they instantly got a text message or email, depending on the type of comms that they preferred, with a booking link to book their time for a tour in the gym. And that increased their conversion rate by 15 to 20% in some clubs, depending on the club.
Yeah.
And we just saw a massive spike in the amount of engagement, which was just phenomenal. So I think business more so needs to embrace those tools and have their team focus on the things like actually nurturing and doing other things with clients rather than sending mundane tasks to book calendar invites or book things in. So definitely. All right. Obviously, for a small business owner who's never tried this, right? Or for even someone who hasn't tried it full stop, it can be a bit overwhelming to set it all up. There's so many options out there. You've got Zappia's, you've got Pabbly. There's probably a million other tools that you can think of. They're just the two that are probably the key ones in market. I guess what would you say is the key to setting that up? Where should they start? What would be a starting point?
Well, starting would be you want to identify, sort of touching what we've been talking about, the entire time.
Yes.
Start with the smaller menial tasks, comms, initial comms is a good one to start with. Leads, if you're using Meta Leads, setting up a way for that to automatically be emailed to you from Facebook with Zapier, for example, is better than having to go manually check it every day.
Yes.
So just looking for the really small tasks to start with, that are going to take a little bit of time off your hands, and then you can sort of build up from there. It's going to be different for every business, but there's always something that you can automate. There's always something.
Agreed. And I think now more so with tools like, your ChatGPTs and your other AI ones that are now being integrated where, we set up one for a business who struggled to respond to Google reviews. And they were able to use ChatGPT to formulate a response to a review, and it responds for them on their behalf. Yeah. That's just a simple automation. It had 4 steps in it. And I guess where I'm heading with that is they were overwhelmed by the idea of how do I do that? And I guess what we did was we wrote down the steps. So we looked at it and we wrote down what were the steps. So there was a physical element where we went, right, what do we need to do in order to do this? So first of all, we want to be alerted when that Google review happens.
Yep.
So there's a function in most of the tools that'll alert you when a new review comes in.
Yep.
We then plugged it in to look for certain things. So we wanted different ratings to get different types of responses.
Sure.
So we set it up at that level. So we worked that out. And so I guess this is where things like diagram drawing comes into it, where you can kind of map out what that looks like from a physical standpoint, so that when you are in the tool using it, you're not kind of getting overwhelmed. Okay, what step do I click next? What tool do I need to use? You kind of have a guide and a plan. Okay, this is how I do it. I think it just makes it simpler to have something mapped out when you're trying to do it than just doing it on screen and hoping for the best.
Yeah, I guess it's about identifying some of your weaknesses or maybe shortcomings or things that you just don't even like doing and seeing how you can take it out of your hands.
Correct.
Like the reviews, as you just mentioned.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. I guess what's probably a common mistake that you see from people when they're setting up automations, and how can they avoid them?
Well, honestly, most of the mistakes I've seen come down to just overcomplicating things.
Yes.
Whether it's getting too much inside your own head or even potentially asking too much of the wrong system.
Yes.
Does that make sense? How to avoid it? You know, sort of going back to what you were saying before with the diagrams, is to try and break things down into a step-by-step level.
Yes.
You know, think about how you would do something step by step, break it down, map it out, and then see how each step and function could potentially be implemented into whatever system you're using. You know, and I guarantee you there's almost always a way.
Yeah, I think there is. And I think the biggest thing I've maybe seen is trying to put too much. So let's use Zapier as an example, right? One of our clients uses it and we use it. They tried to put too many steps in the one Zap.
Yeah.
And it became complicated and the Zap got confused and didn't know what it was doing, right? Because it was overcomplicated. So what we did is we streamlined it, and it was actually became 2 Zaps that was required to do that function.
Yeah.
It needed step 1, which was doing some automation, pulling some data from somewhere and changing some things and finalizing things. And it put that data into a spreadsheet.
Yep.
And then Zap 2 was to do what it needed to do, which was the email functions and a couple other things. And it was actually needed, it just required it to be kind of separated out and thought about. And I guess, like you said, having that flow is important. So you know, what steps am I requiring so that I can get this set up correctly.
It's also good because you that means if the email fails, it doesn't stop the whole Zap, so the leads still get collected. It's just a second part that can be worked on. So you don't have to pause the entire thing to fix just one part at the end. You know?
And I guess that's the other important thing, is setting them up so that if something does break, there's a recoverable point. You don't lose anything, and you want to be protected, especially when you're dealing with data. Data's fundamental in any business, right? They always say data's king. It's important. It really is. And if you create something that's suddenly wiping data, you could have a problem, or not collecting it correctly, or collecting it where it needs to be. You could end up with a problem. So definitely important to really look at the whole process. All right, last question. Where do you see business automation going, I guess, in the next 1 to 2 years? There's a lot more AI entering in that space. What are you kind of seeing?
Well, we were talking about this the other day, actually, but I see more AI coming more into the automation with email responses. Even be able to sort of manage and preload responses to emails in your inbox potentially, or to give you highlights or things to focus on for the day. Like if you're someone who's getting 100 emails every time they wake up, you know, or over the weekend especially, happens to us.
Yes.
You know, I do envision there being some deeper integration there with ChatGPT and other language learning models as well, that could help organize your very busy inboxes more, and help streamline responses as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's kind of there at the moment, and I think it's just, I think people are reluctant to use it a little bit.
I understand.
I think they're a bit concerned.
I'm like half one of them. Half, like, I like writing stuff, you know?
Agreed. But if, especially for me as a business owner, I've got 100 things going on. Yeah. And if I get some email that's just a minor thing that needs a response that the AI can handle and respond for me, I'm like, that's a great benefit to me. Like if it could respond and send back a link to, like, say, for example, if someone's asking to book a time to sit with me, and my AI can read that and go, you know what? I just need to send them back a nice email that says, no worries, and here's my link to book a time with me. awesome. That saved me that time.
Yeah.
Writing that email, cutting and pasting my link, putting it in there, and sending that back.
I mean, it's pretty much just like an FAQ with a chatbot already, you know? Like you give
Correct.
it preloaded responses and then the AI can determine which one to go with based on the contents of the email.
Correct.
Is it like the meeting link is one of them, you know?
Yeah, and just basic things. I'm thinking things like that. And, you know, some of those things, you know, you come in on a Monday morning and if I could have 10 less emails would be amazing.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm sure everyone would love that on a Monday morning. It would just make life a bit easier. So I definitely think there's a lot of advancements to come in this space. And I think business is crazy for not looking at how can we streamline and improve that.
Yeah.
Especially with staff. I think, you know, making staff focus on the bigger things, which is supporting and looking after your customers more so and doing other things rather than responding to an email, I think is very important.
Just getting people out of the nitty gritty trenches, you know?
Correct.
If
Yes.
Data entry or whatever, you know?
That, and we've just become a society that's moving so quickly. So sometimes having those things that support us to do that, I think is important. So, yeah.
It's hard to keep up.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you for coming in, Sam, having a chat about business automation. I think it's something that we will probably touch on again in the near future, no doubt.
Probably.
But appreciate you coming in and hopefully sharing some valuable insights with you today. So that's a wrap on this episode of The Hop, a marketing podcast with a business edge. So if you've enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and connect with us on social media. Have you got something to share? Apply to be a guest on our show. Just head to our website and let's have a chat. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep your marketing smart, your business sharp, and your brand hopping.